I'm Eric Franke, live in Green Bay as Titletown puts on the finishing touches, ready for an onslaught of fans for the 2025 NFL Draft.
And I'm Zach Canley, also in Green Bay. We'll show you a Packers tradition that incorporates this year's NFL Draft thanks to a paintbrush.
And the U.S. Department of Education will begin collecting defaulted student loan debt on May 5th. How Wisconsinites say the move will impact them. And we welcome you to News 3 Now at 6, a special edition here. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Sarah Carlson, and we are now 1 day away from the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay as thousands of fans make their way to Titletown. We're kicking off our team coverage today ahead of the first pick tomorrow. And we have team coverage out in Green Bay. We begin now with Eric Franke and News 3 Now Packers correspondent Jason Wilde right outside of Lambeau Field. Hey, guys.
That's right, Sarah. Beautiful afternoon as we turn into evening here in Green Bay, just off the south end of Lambeau Field. Jason Wilde joining us once again, and this is really kind of the eve of a lot of years of work and anticipation for really this whole region.
It is, and obviously there's been excitement building, right? But I'm still fascinated. We're still seeing trucks go by. Yeah. We're still seeing cranes go by. Look, the NFL puts on this event every year. They put on Super Bowls. They put on international games. They know what they're doing, but it still feels like they're running the 2-minute drill. I hope they've got enough timeouts and they can get out of bounds a couple times here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Green Bay's more than football, but this is really what this community, this is their, we've seen fans coming here that this is kind of a pilgrimage of sorts. It really is football, this community.
Well, if you listen to Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, he called it a football mecca, and I think that's the best way to put it. And I think there are, you've run into fans from every team. So have I in the last day or two. That I think is what the NFL really wanted. They don't necessarily need the big numbers of 775,000 people like they had in Detroit. This is more about the intimacy and about this special football place.
It really is. And we'll be talking more about Packers draft needs and all that good stuff with Jason shortly. But now we want to turn it over to our sports director, Zach Hanley. He is also up here in Green Bay covering the draft. Zach?
NFL Draft is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You guys were mentioning about the construction. We can actually show you the draft stage where the picks will be announced tomorrow night. You can see the draft stage, and they can also see a fence with a tarp on. Hopefully they'll all be done before tomorrow. The draft happens tomorrow, but I really want to show you this fence behind me. It's the original painted fence. It started back in 1984, and every year they change a slogan. This year's Draft Dreams on Murphy's Turf, obviously because the draft is in Green Bay, right? Well, the cool part is Packers president Mark Murphy actually helped paint a letter this year, and he does it every year, and this is his last year as the Packers president, so why not go out with a bang? But, coming up later in sports, the Packers haven't picked a first-round draft pick that's a receiver in over 2 decades. Maybe that will change. We talked to 2 potential first-round draft picks that are receivers and why they want to be Green Bay Packers.
Zach, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about who they're going to pick. We're going to cover more of that stuff a little bit later when Jason rejoins us. But right now, again, finishing touches being put on. You're starting to get a little buzz in the air down here as the finishing touches are put on, and we're getting ready for the 2025 NFL Draft. Sarah?
And it's a beautiful day to be there. Thank you, Eric. Talk to you a little bit later. And speaking of, will Mother Nature cooperate with the NFL Draft? Here is meteorologist Jacob Montesano with the details out on the weather patio. Gorgeous day.
Yeah, very nice right now. And as far as if the weather will cooperate, the answer is kind of. Let's take a look at the draft forecast. We'll see some light rain for Thursday. Temperatures not too bad. Friday, unfortunately, we're going to see a little bit more consistent rainfall and cooler temperatures. And then by Saturday, we will be very nice. So a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. Now, looking down at southern Wisconsin, lower 70s, upper 60s right now. It is gorgeous out here, and we're not seeing any rain at the moment. Now, we are seeing some showers in the far northern portion of our area, but a lot of places dry right now. But that won't be the case case for the entire evening. As we look at future track, a little bit after sunset, maybe right around sunset for areas further northwest, we'll start to see some showers and storms move into the area. Some of these storms actually could be on the stronger side, with minor hail being the most likely hazard. Now, these storms are going to continue into the very early morning hours Thursday, but after sunrise, we're only going to see showers north of Madison. A lot of the area will be dry by then, and then once we get later in the day Thursday, we may see some showers north and west, but a lot of places not expect to see rain for the day on Thursday, at least in southern Wisconsin. Rain will be a little bit more likely up in Green Bay. So looking at the forecast throughout the rest of the evening, we'll see 60s even through 10 p.m., but we are going to see some rain at the end of the evening into the early overnight hours, with cloudy skies continuing overnight. Lows will drop into the 50s. But that's not the only chance of rain for this week. Plus, we have an alert day next week. I'll talk more in detail about all of that coming up a little bit later.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jacob. In other news now, the U.S. Department of Education will begin collecting defaulted student loan debt on May 5th. It'll be a first since March of 2020, when the department paused involuntary collections for borrowers. But now, as our Maddie Heimsch reports, that pause has run its course.
I've taken out a variety of federal and private loans.
The interest is not exactly low.
I still owe a few $1,000s.
More than 700,000 Wisconsinites have student loan debt in their name. And now, after a 5-year leniency period, borrowers who haven't kept up with their payments will face involuntary collections.
It could be that you have avoided your student loans because they seem complicated and you don't know how to deal with them.
If you're someone who's kept up with that debt, you won't have to worry about a defaulted balance. But if you're not sure about your dues,
It does make me a little bit nervous. I'm like one missed paycheck away from some bad stuff happening financially, so fingers crossed.
Carol Trone with the Wisconsin Coalition on Student Debt says it's time to take a look.
But that is where you may run into the greatest risk of non-payment and then default. And then you're really starting to have some additional challenges.
The coalition runs a confidential helpline to make student loan debt easier to navigate and to avoid those additional challenges, like a hit to your credit score or barriers to securing loans in the future.
You just don't want to dig a deeper hole for yourself by affecting your credit rating.
Trone says the best way to tackle debt is one step at a time.
A part of me is just kind of hoping that they'll, just keep dragging it out for years and years in the courts until it gets to the point where I get like 20-year forgiveness or I die.
Reporting in Madison, Maddie Heimsch, News 3 Now.
And if you don't know where to start when it comes to paying off those student loans, you can contact the coalition. Their helpline number and email are up on our website, channel3000.com. Well, nearly a week ago, Sun Prairie selected Kevin Warch to be the next police chief. Our Tanisha Shaw spoke to the new chief about his plans.
The large goal is really just to gain the trust internally and externally.
Kevin Wark is excited to call Sun Prairie his new home.
I enjoy the family life. I value, the Midwest values. People talk about Midwest nice. That defines me as a person.
After a large turnout at a public forum in March, Sun Prairie's police department chose Wark to lead the agency as chief.
It's never been about me. It's about everybody. They'll see that quickly about me, whether it's the Hispanic community, the Black community, Somali, you name it. It's important for people to see that, my heart is on my sleeve, and that's where it's always going to be. And that's how we're going to lead and work together in the community.
He's excited to embrace the growing city's diversity.
You want the city to grow. That's how cities sustain. The more people that come, the more future leaders that they're going to be in the city in 20, 30 years from now. The police department is going to work closely with the Parks Department, Economic Development, the Fire Department. This is a team effort. And that's really what drew me to the city of Sun Prairie. Everybody's been so welcoming. Everybody's been working and has this collaborative effort.
And maintain staff retention.
We're going to train people, good enough for them to leave, but treat them good enough for them that they don't want to.
Right now, Wark is completing his last days as an operations commander in Green Bay. He's worked there for more than 20 years and says his experience has prepared him for this role.
I've done a lot of work in the community, especially, just giving the community a voice. I think that's important, and that's what I'm going to bring to the city of Sun Prairie. Whether that's just having community meetings, meeting people where they're at, making sure that people are heard. I think that's where the police legitimacy comes into every community. People want to see actions.
Reporting in Sun Prairie, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.
Tanisha, thank you. And the swearing-in ceremony is scheduled for May 12th. Coming up on News 3 Now at 6, breaking down the Packers as we head into the NFL draft. When we come back, Eric and Jason return to discuss which positions the team may focus on over the next 3 days. Stay with us.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
As the shadows start to fall near Lambeau Field, I feel like John Facenda should be reading that little intro. I'm with Jason Wilde, our Packers Channel 3000 correspondent, or whatever your title is, contributor, our insider, and the draft anticipation builds here in Green Bay, and we're going to talk a little bit about what maybe the Green Bay Packers need. A lot of fans differ in their opinions. We talked about receiver, we've talked about D-line, and when you look at last year, you think a lot about how good Josh Jacobs was, and boy, it would be nice to get him a little help so he doesn't have to take the beating that he took last year.
Well, first of all, my title is president of the Eric Franke fan club, of course.
For many years
Beyond that, look, Josh Jacobs ran for 1,329 yards last season. More than half of those were after contact. If you look at what Saquon Barkley did for the Philadelphia Eagles, he ran for over 2,000 yards. He had one fewer yard, 1,328, before contact. So he was getting all this great blocking that he never got touched until almost as many yards as Josh Jacobs had run for total. So they definitely wanted to upgrade their offensive line. That's why they signed Aaron Banks in free agency. That's why I think they will still pick an offensive lineman at some point in the first 2 days. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, but I would think we wouldn't get out of Friday without them drafting another offensive lineman.
Yeah, last year they went offensive line, but the Morgan kid out of Arizona was hurt.
Well, and look, that's one of the things that I think Brian Gutekunst was trying to illustrate is you don't necessarily need your first-round pick to play right away. Mm-hmm. They played pretty well on their offensive line, all things considered, right. But they are expecting now Jordan Morgan, last year's first-round pick, to compete for the starting left tackle job and be part of the mix this year.
All right. Now, what about the defensive line, the other side of the football? Kenny Clark still around? I mean, what's going on over there?
He is. It's incredible. Kenny Clark came in the league. He was 19, 20 years old. He's still not even 30 yet, which is why he's still on the team.
I would have guessed much older.
Goody doesn't need guys that are over 30. But look, that was a group that was a disappointment last year. The Packers finished the season with 45 sacks. That was tied for 8th in the league. But they really had to conjure it up with smoke and mirrors. Yeah. Their defensive line just did not deliver. That is a clear need. They brought in a bunch of edge rushers for visits. I would anticipate that if you're thinking a position for tomorrow, that's a pretty good guess to make.
Yeah, okay. We'll keep an eye on that. Some good information there from our Packers insider. I like that term, from Channel 3000, Jason Wilde. So, yeah, the draft, the excitement continues to build. The fans have already got their draft boards at their houses. The real war room is just right over our shoulders there. And I think their work is done, right? But they'll be back there doing making their picks tomorrow night. Let's go to Sarah back in Madison.
All right, good to hear from you guys. Great job. Looking forward to it. And still ahead at 6, it's a big day for one of UW Health's most visible programs. We'll look back at the 40-year-long history of MedFlight as the hospital celebrates their crews and the life-saving work. Plus, how much more rain can we expect to get in the forecast? Jacob has the answer after this.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is the 40th anniversary of UW Health's MedFlight, a UW Health emergency transport service that provides care for patients in Wisconsin and nearby states. Our Merrill Hubbard brings us to the flight pad to meet physicians who take care to the air.
Most doctors are used to staying indoors, whether it be a hospital or a clinic, and having their patients meet them. But 21 UW Health physicians prefer a different method as they take to the sky to help those in need.
So it's a very different mindset that you have out in the field or in a rural area than you might have here at a university hospital.
UW's MedFlight started in 1985 with a crew of UW physicians, nurses, and pilots who responded to an emergency in Adams Friendship. Since then, the service has only grown, where UW Health now staffs 3 helicopters for 24 hours a day, every day. Dr. Ryan Wibbin is one of those physicians flying in the field.
I also came from a kind of an aviation background as well, so it was kind of the perfect marriage of medicine and aviation that most people, just as physicians, just don't have that opportunity in this country.
UW Helps MedFlight is the only program in the country that staffs every flight with an attending level emergency physician. Reporting in Madison, Meryl Hubbard, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Meryl. And more rain and storms in the forecast. Jacob has the details on when we can expect all of that.
Yeah, we're going to see rain tonight, and then again, we'll see that rain move back into the area once we get into Friday. But looking at the other things you may need to know, dry over the weekend, and then after the weekend, we are going to be seeing an alert day in the forecast for Monday and Tuesday. Now, here's a look at the severe weather outlook for tonight. We don't have an alert day in the forecast, but there is a marginal risk for severe weather for just about everybody. Most likely hazards will be some minor hail, but the severe weather will be very isolated. However, just about everybody could see those showers and thunderstorms. They'll move in just after sunset and continue for especially the early overnight hours, maybe even into early Thursday morning, but that will be before sunrise. After sunrise, a lot of the area will be dry by then. Still could see some showers north of Madison and also off to the west. But in general, we're not expecting much precipitation tomorrow. We will see cloudy skies, but for the most part, only some light sprinkles from time to time, and temperatures will be very nice as well. Now, once we get to Thursday night, we're going to see more consistent precipitation move back into the area. This round of precipitation not expected to produce any severe weather, but we still could see a few thunderstorms here and there. And then once we get to Friday, some rain is expected in the morning, but we are expecting fairly dry conditions by the afternoon. So looking at the temperatures during all of this, for tomorrow, it's going to be very nice. Despite the cloud cover, highs could reach the lower 70s, maybe a little bit cooler further north, but unfortunately Friday will be on the cooler side with highs only in the middle 50s. It also will be a bit breezy, so it may feel a bit cooler, especially with that cloud cover. And now it's mostly going to rain in the morning, but still going to be cool throughout the day. And then look at the weekend. It's going to be very nice. Highs will be in the lower 60s Saturday, middle 60s Sunday, partly sunny skies both days, maybe some showers Sunday evening, but for the most part, we're going to be dry throughout the entire weekend. And that is before we have the alert day Monday and Tuesday for the potential of strong to severe storms. I would advise everyone to stay updated to our forecast because this definitely could change a little bit before it actually occurs. Now, here's a look at the severe weather outlook. It's not very common that the severe weather outlook shows a high chance of severe weather this far out. So we definitely are expecting that severe weather to impact our area. This is for Monday, and then for Tuesday, it is south of us. But again, a lot can change between now and then, and we do expect the severe weather outlook to include our area before the system actually moves through. So overall, definitely could see a pretty busy day severe weather-wise those 2 days. But taking a look at the forecast until then, we're not going to be too bad outside of Friday. Again, tomorrow will be fairly dry with very comfortable temperatures. The weekend almost certainly going to be dry with the exception of maybe some light rain late Sunday, and it will be sunny. Now, after that potential severe weather Monday, Tuesday, conditions do look to be a lot calmer to end the week. We'll be right back.
Coming to you once again live in the shadow of Lambeau Field here in Green Bay, where the work crews, a few of them still left out here putting the finishing touches on the 2025 NFL Draft. That first pick from the Tennessee Titans, a little less than 25 hours away now. And for the fans, we've seen a few of them, not a ton of them here yet. That's coming more tomorrow, but we saw some Raider fans, for example, earlier today in Oshkosh. And you can really tell Green Bay is truly the mecca of football. They're here to see a play, a bucket list, if you will, paying a bit of a pilgrimage to the game of football. And when it comes to history, Packers fans, well, they're used to being here. They just like to talk about Packers draft history. And for a little more on that, we go to our sports director, also live here in Green Bay, Zach Hanley. Zach?
Yeah, Eric, it's been a long time since the Packers picked a wide receiver in the first round. You have to go all the way back to 2002 when they drafted Javon Walker, and historically, Green Bay just doesn't do that. But that could change this year. They're high on Arizona wideout Tetairoa McMillan. He was giving back this morning with Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, and the thought of one of them being a Packer as the 23rd overall pick has both of them all smiles.
Feel like home, like I said, man. I feel like I'm back at home. The city, the organization, just the people out here in general, I feel like it's a good place to be. Somewhere I can see myself, Any organization that's getting me, though, you're getting a competitor, you're getting a dog. So just knowing that I got the opportunity to come here, man, it means a lot to me.
If I was fortunate enough to come over here, whether they trade up or if I drop to them, it's a blessing, and it shows that, they believe in the person I am and the talents I have on the field, and, it's a huge blessing, and like I said, if I'm fortunate enough to come over here, I know that I'm going to be in good hands for sure.
Now, guessing correctly who the Packers will pick in the first round is like finding a needle in a haystack, but I'm guessing that Jordan Love wouldn't mind throwing to either one of those two guys. They were beasts on the field in college. But Eric, only time will tell.
Always like to see offensive weapons taken here in the NFL draft by the green and gold. Zach, thank you. Our coverage will continue tonight on News 3 Now at 10. We'll have more of these final preparations in our Packers Channel 3000 correspondent, Jason Wilde. He will also be joining us once again with live coverage as we look ahead to the NFL draft. The Tennessee Titans on the clock again. It starts tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Sarah?
All right, time is ticking. Thank you, Eric. And a final check on the forecast, too. It's not too bad out right now, but we've got some changes coming.
Yeah, we're going to see nice conditions for the rest of the day, although there's only about 1 hour left of sunlight, but we are going to see those storms tonight. Tomorrow should be pretty good. Cloudy skies, maybe some rain at times, but for the most part dry and very comfortable temperature-wise. Rain Friday, then dry over the weekend, and then we have that alert day Monday and Tuesday for possible severe weather. Very April-like forecast right there.
I was going to say lots of changes, but we'll take it. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 6.